how did I get interested in communism? I grew up in a poor, primarily black neighborhood, and I saw how things were crumbling. Infrastructure. The police barely came, and when they did, they caused their own problems. I saw the slum lord houses around me, playgrounds rotting, streets rotting. These people were left behind. And I said, how could this happen? But I got older and I said, it's their fault. They don't want it enough. I knew they did want it. I saw them trying to escape, but I said they don't want it enough, and I'm better than that. And I'm going to get past that, and I'm going to rise above and have my own thing. And I'm not going to worry about it. But then I was hit with Bush's wars. I was hit with Obama's wars. And I said, this destruction that this empire is wreaking upon the world is continuous with what I saw growing up and inseparable. And there's no way I could live with myself saying, I got mine and it's fine. Because if these wars are really and truly imperialist wars, as I believe they are, that shows that this government is well and capable of leaving behind its own people just the same. And so I went into the workforce, and I worked in a kitchen, and I saw the people around me. And I don't think that the management of the kitchen was malicious. That's the thing that struck me the most. They weren't malicious, but they simply wanted to succeed. They wanted more profit. And so they did things that were, to me, I wouldn't say baldly immoral, but hesitantly immoral. They were obligated to put people through conditions of work that they could not have done a different way. It was the only way they could have done it. And I was thinking, how do I make things better? If I make a union and we demand things to be better, it's going to raise prices, it's going to make the company less competitive, the company is going to shrink and be weakened, and it's not going to allow for us to have a growing workers' movement. And I saw that happen all around me. I was trying to fight for unions. I was in the IWW. I believed we could make unions from scratch wholesale. And I saw how these shops would unionize around me and they would get shut down. And I said, that's not it. We can't just make unions. We can't just make one big union. It's not that simple. And I said, what do we do next? What's the next step? What's our understanding of things? And it was then that I started reading all sorts of things. I was reading anarchists, I was reading Kropotkin, I was reading all this different stuff, trying to understand. And it wasn't until I came across Lenin that I was shocked at how he broke through the illusion that I had been under for so long. I was just shocked at how much I had been deluded my whole life for years and years and years and years. And how simple the answer was, in a sense. The class conditions. The class conditions, and not the individual greed of the landlords or the bosses. Oh, they're just bad people. We just need to fight against them. No. We do need to fight against the capitalist class, but it's the ones on top who are the problem. And I understood the nature of the capitalist state, how it wasn't formed on a voluntary basis, like I had been taught, like I had naively assumed. Not at all. And I thought about this, and I said, but what if that's also wrong? What if that's also wrong? The people can't rule. I read Animal Farm as a kid. I said the people can't rule. It's going to be Animal Farm. And so I said, how can Lenin be right? I'm reading him, he's so right. Everything he's saying is true. Yet, how could it result in such disaster? And so I started digging deeper, and I said, it's not a disaster. It's not a disaster. Michael Parenti taught me that it was not a disaster. It was a success. I started digging into the Soviet history, the real history, and I said, no, they lied to us. They lied to us. And all of these naive and popular communistic assumptions that are snuffed out in the mind of the child who says, why are things like this? Why can't they be better? Why do I have to be stuck in the rat race? Why do I have to be working for the imperialists? All of those things came back and I said, this is real. This is real. I wasn't just a delusional, naive kid. And the things that I had learned as an adult and the thoughts I was having about I'm just going to pull myself up by the bootstraps and I'm going to be above it and I'm going to feel great were a lie. They were a lie that I had been told, one that I had eaten. And so I became a communist not because I wanted to be edgy, I wanted to rebel against the system, because I had hatred in my heart. I did have hatred. I still do. And I fight against it. I try not to have it. I try to have a sense of mercy and forgiveness because people know not what they do. The financial abstractions that they're taught, they might see the consequences of it, but they don't connect the dots. Only a select few know what they really do. That's what the class analysis reveals. And through this lens, you start to get a sense of reality that's compelling to people as well. I found my friends were more interested in talking to me when I studied this stuff. They said, this guy knows what he's talking about. And then I would have people come to me and they go, oh, I heard that this guy's a communist. He must be crazy, right? He must be insane. He must believe all this crazy stuff. And then I would talk to them a bit and they would go, he's right. And I didn't think about it that way. I said, yes, take Lenin's hand. Take his hand, as corny as it sounds. Follow him. Follow him. Follow Lenin. Follow him out. That's all I did. Communism is the way out. That's the way I see it. We're stuck in the imperialist, financialized, bourgeois, like rotting bourgeois system, which has no future. We're stuck inside of it. The Soviets got out of it. They found the way out. They got out of it. We need to find our way out. And that is our way out. That is the way out. There's not another way out. Every other thing is like a dead end in a corn maze. You're not going to get there. You're not going to get there until you get it. At the very least, start with Lenin. If your politics don't start with the same fundamental analysis and understanding as Marx and Lenin, and maybe from there you go to something else based on the new class composition of America, maybe I respect it. Maybe if your critique is a Marxist type of critique, as in advancing things rather than rewriting them or negating them, then maybe I accept it. But other than that, I saw that all of these things that I had believed for so long, for most of my life, still most of my life I believed them, had been traps, essentially, that were set up as part of a sophisticated network of anti-communist consciousness, which is now in decay, now unable to maintain itself. And that's the only reason why the American Communist Party exists today. Because people like Haz al-Din, the people in Midwestern Marx, theorists, were able to break out of the matrix and follow Lenin, follow him proper. And that's the only way. I'm only part of a rising tide. I'm only part of a movement that objectively exists outside of myself, swept up in it. It's not my idea. It's not my conceit. It's the way out, and the way out is there whether or not I believe in it.